let's talk about the concept of function decoration in JavaScript. Function decoration works same way like decoration work in a real life. So let's say we have a home and the home basic need is for like living, and when we have a birthday party for ourselves or we want to celebrate some other person's birthday, so we want to like decorate our room to get an additional features. Like, so we order something new, we order lights, we order balloons just for that day, and from the next day it's like normal again. We do same with the like function. We like decorate them to like get a specific functionality out of that. When we are done, we say that do not do it again, or like similar like concept, similar thing. So in this way, like with the function decoration concept, we are able to like edit our functions also. So we will see that in a minute, that how we are, because without function decoration we are not able to like edit our functions, and we will see how we can trick our functions to edit our functions. So for function decoration we need two functions. One is outer function and one is inner function, and the inner function would like have the backpack attached to it. We know that because we studied class and we saw that how they have a backpack or a variable environment or a surrounding data attached to them, and we're gonna use that technique also. So let's create function outer function. Okay, so it's gonna take a parameter of convert me. I'm gonna like tell you which parameter is that. Just for now, just take it as a convert me, and then I'm gonna take it a variable called let counter is equal to 0. Okay, so we will decorate it with the counter. We will like now create the inner function, and we will trick the inner function to run only when the counter is 0. So we will like keep track of inner function with the counter variable. So we will say that if counter is equal to 0, we are gonna run the functionality. Otherwise we're gonna return sorry or something else. Like we're gonna just return sorry or whatever you want. Okay, so if counter is equal to 0, we're gonna run some functionality. Which functionality we want to run? Let's create that functionality over here. We want to like run multiply by 2 function only once. Okay, so how can we do that with function decoration? Is by this function multiply by 2, and it's gonna do is whatever it's gonna take an input, whatever the input is, it's gonna multiply that with the 2 and return that. Okay, and then we're gonna create another function, the outer function, outer multiply by 2. Let's say multiply by 2, and we're gonna call this outer function over here, and whatever the output of this function is gonna be stored in this, and we're gonna call this outer function with an argument of multiply by 2. I'm gonna like explain these in a detailed manner when I will like write the whole code in my dev tools. So if counter is equal to 0, we're gonna do is multiply by 2 as an argument to outer function, and convert me is declared but this file is never used. So convert me is like basically now multiply by 2 reference. So we're gonna call convert me with an input whatever is that. Okay, and I'm gonna take its input over here. Here I'm gonna like return the inner, which is the like return statement of like apart from this the like the return statement of outer function. Okay, when I call this outer multiply by 2, it's gonna like store the inner into it, and it should be inner function. Yeah, so it's gonna like return the inner function into it, and its execution context is gonna be like gone, and this inner function is gonna be like stored into a heap memory with its backpack data or a variable environment or a surrounding data attached to it. yeah, so we are then gonna call this inner, because now outer multiplied by 2 is stored with the inner function. We can pass in some value to it to get its output, and I'm gonna like pass in 10 for now to see its output in my Firefox DevTools, and I didn't get any output. Okay, so I have to return something over here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is take its output in some variable output, and then I'm gonna do increase the counter to 1, and then I'm gonna return the output over here. Okay, because otherwise it won't return anything and we can't see its outputs. So let's see. Okay, outer, okay, not outer function but outer multiply by 2, because it is stored, this inner function is I call that its inner function is stored in outer multiply by 2, so I have to call outer multiply by 2. Now it should show value. It didn't still show some value, so we have to console that. Yeah, or like take its output in some variable and then show that. I'm gonna like directly console that whatever is coming in. So yeah, we got 20, and let's debug this code in our Firefox DevTools. I'm gonna add some breakpoints, and I'm gonna watch this variable. I'm gonna like watch the output as well. And what else? I should add a breakpoint over here, breakpoint over here, breakpoint over here, breakpoint over here. Let's do that. So we are declaring a function at line number 181. We are at line number 181 with the parameter of convert me. We are storing that an outer function. Then we are going to directly jump into the line number 196. We store that in a memory, and then we are calling the multiply by 2 function over here. Not really, but declaring the multiply by 2 with an input and returning the input, and then we are at line number 198 and we are calling the outer function, which is this, and passing in multiply by 2 into it. Okay, so now convert me is basically function multiply by 2 reference, and then we are at line number 182. At line number 182 counter is 0. Then we have inner function. It's not gonna like touch anything into it. Counter is basically now 0, and we are gonna return the inner function with an input into outer multiply by function. Okay, so I'm gonna like resume it, and now we can see that actually I shouldn't do from breakpoint to breakpoint. I should go in from step in. So I'm gonna like go faster this time. So do this, do this, do this, and now I'm gonna like step in, see all the steps. Let counter is equal to 0, and then we have over here counter is 0, and now we are storing the inner function in a memory. Okay, and then I'm gonna step in, and then we are returning the inner function, and then I'm gonna step in, and we are gonna like step out. The outer function is now gonna be like pop out of the call stack, and the inner function is now gonna be stored into outer multiply by 2 with this surrounding data counter 0 and convert me. Okay, so here it is. Outer multiply by 2 is now a function you can see with an inner function and the outer function, and you can see all of its like backpack data which is attached to it. Okay, so this is basically a layer, a whole layer. Let's step in again. Now at this point I call the inner function, like I call basically outer multiply by 2, but it's referring to the inner function. Okay, I'm gonna outer multiply by 2 with the input variable of 10, so it's gonna pass in 10 to inner function. We go to inner function, we are passing 10 to it as an argument, and then we are checking if counter is equal to 0, because the counter is attached to its backpack, and it would show to it that counter is 0, and it's gonna like check from right side. Yeah, it's 0, then it's gonna like go inside of that, and then we go to it, and then we call the convert me, which is multiply by 2. Okay, so which is multiply by 2, and its input is gonna be 10, and it's gonna basically call this multiply by 2 and pass in 10 to it, and it's gonna like directly jump into it, and whatever the output comes from here is gonna be stored over here. So let's step in 10, which is we just passed in from here. 10 multiplied by 2 is gonna be 20. If we passed into that, we got 20 stored in output. Output is now 20. We are increasing the counter to 1, and let's step in. Now counter is 1. Now because counter is 1, calculation or evaluation cannot be run again. Okay, so I'm gonna do is return the output, and this output is going to be stored into outer multiplier. I can like take it as output in some variable. I just directly console that, and now we are returning output and printing that to console. So this is the last step. We are now getting out of this execution context, and here we go. We are now printing out the whatever the output is returned from here. Here we go, and we can see that at console we got 20. So if we can like console log on the same statement again, when I run it again, I would get sorry, because at this point the counter would be 1, and at this point the counter will be 2, and I would get the return of sorry. Okay, so if I like refresh this again and go to console, let's remove the breakpoints, remove all, close this, and let's go to console, refresh this. So you see 20 sorry 20 sorry, or we can like refresh it, 20 sorry 20 okay, 20 sorry, because at this point the counter was 1, and at this point counter was 1. So we basically like able to edit the function just by like tricking the functions. Whatever like technique I use the technique of counter, because of counter we were able to edit the functions, the inner functions. So that was the concept of function decorations. We can like change the functionality, or we can get the whatever we want on the specific conditions. We can run the functions on that also. See you in next video. Take care.